Hello and welcome to This Month in Fintech. Now, normally on this series, we dive right into the interview, but this episode, I wanted to take a second to give a little context to the conversation. In this episode, I'm speaking to head of Robinhood Ventures, Sarah Pinto. Her and her team were responsible for the launch of RV2 at the start of August this year. RV2, or Robinhood Ventures Fund 2, to give it its full name, is a managed pool of assets that provides retail investors exposure to a diversified portfolio of private companies in their earlier stage. I think this is a really important conversation because historically, the biggest upside in venture capital has been reserved only for the people that have access. But what Robinhood Ventures is doing could fundamentally change that, giving everyday investors access to early stage private companies, and the potential wealth creation that comes with that is huge. That's a big shift, and I'm thrilled to unpack what that means. I'm also excited to find out a little bit more about Sarah herself and what's motivated her journey to one of the top positions at Robinhood. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Okay, hello and welcome to the listeners of the This Month in Fintech podcast. My name is Sasha Pilch, and I'm so thrilled to have our guest today, head of Robinhood Ventures, Sarah Pinto. So welcome to the podcast, Sarah. How are you today and where are you calling from?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm in Menlo Park today and I'm doing very well. Very excited.
Awesome. So I'm very excited to jump into RV2. And before I do that, I'd love to get to know you a little bit and let the listeners get to know you too, Sarah. So you were born in Paris, you came to the US to attend Harvard, and then you started your career at Goldman. Then you went into private equity at Bridgepoint, growth equity at Great Hills and Spectrum, and then spent 8 years working with Laureen Powell Jobs at Emerson Collective. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Of course, that's exactly right. I very much identify as an immigrant in so many ways. My parents were both born in Morocco. I was born in Paris. My kids were born in the US. And so it's multiple waves of immigration and very much a global citizen with roots in a number of different places, but incredibly proud to now be a proud French American and have built my career here in the US and in California. It's I've been an investor pretty much my whole career in tech, and there's never been a boring day. I actually started my career in July of 2008, and so right away I saw the crisis. The first real crisis of my career came rolling pretty fast, and then it's been a wild ride since then.
I'm similar. Like, I'm not American, but been living in the US for 9 years now, originally from Australia. And I also started my career working for the largest bank in Australia, Westpac, in February 2008. So we both had like a similar start, and great to see like how things have progressed and where we both are now. Great. So you've made some pretty incredible investments. So at Emerson Collective, you invested in Stripe, OpenAI, Ramp, great fintechs that a lot of our listeners work at or use or follow. And that's probably a good segue into Robinhood Ventures, as some of the Emerson Collective investments that you've made are in RV1. So let's just talk a little bit about RV1 first. So it's the first of its kind as it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So I think it bears the question of why are we doing this, and why did I decide to do this? So in the 16 years since I've started investing in tech, there's just been so much success and wealth creation that has happened in the private markets that has been absolutely astounding to see. I didn't think when I started that I would witness $1 trillion valuation companies that are still private. And here we are, right? And I've been incredibly fortunate to have been able to invest in a couple of them when they were much smaller and to ride that appreciation and that success as very much a passenger on the rocket ship as an investor. And it's been incredible. And at the same time, it's really a very limited number of people and institutions that get to benefit from that wealth and value creation. And so really that's what Robinhood was trying to solve and is trying to solve with Robinhood Ventures. And that's really what attracted me to this adventure, is really solving this issue of, on the one hand, so much value getting created, but staying in the private markets. And on the other hand, there's really only 1% of American households that have any exposure directly to privates, which is crazy if you think about it. 99% of people haven't been able to benefit from the amazing innovations that are happening in this country, in these amazing companies. And at Robinhood, we stand for access. And so we think we're uniquely positioned to solve this. And when I was offered the opportunity to actually jump on that rocket ship, I took it. And I'm someone who really resonates with mission and mission-driven jobs. That's very much why I joined Lorene on the Emerson adventure before. And that's very much why I decided to joined Vlad and Shiv when they presented the opportunity to me at Robinhood. And so we started with the first fund, Robinhood Ventures 1, which is a closed-end fund. It's a 40-act fund that trades on the New York Stock Exchange. And it has a few really important innovative characteristics. One is it's accessible to anyone. So anyone who is an American taxpayer can invest. You don't have to be accredited. You don't have to know anyone in particular. There's no minimum investment amount. Oftentimes, to get into a round of a company or a venture fund, you need to be able to invest tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes $100,000 plus. This is not the case here. You can buy one share. You can even buy fractional shares on Robinhood. It's liquid. So yes, in order to fully benefit from the appreciation in the private markets, it is better to buy and hold. Certainly, that is how you generate returns on the equity markets. But life happens, and sometimes you need to rebalance your portfolio and you need to be able to generate liquidity. And so having a product where there's daily secondary liquidity felt really innovative to us. And the last thing I would say is that RVI invests directly on the cap tables of these companies, gets the companies excited to take in retail capital and to work with Robinhood. And that's something I'm incredibly proud of, is that we offer something different to these companies. They're excited to do it with us. And it's very much a direct investment at the same terms as all the other venture capital firms out there.
I love to hear it. And the piece about like not having to be an accredited investor and still being able to access this, honestly, when I first read that, it worried me a little bit. Like I was like, okay, well, these accredited investor guardrails exist for a reason. But the fact that there's no minimum investment and you can liquidate at any time, now it fully makes sense to me. Like it's much less risk, and these investors' money isn't going to be tied up for 10 years like other people that are investing in private companies. But with RV1, which is very exciting, I actually think RV2 is way more exciting. Like the concept of RV1 being able to invest in these later stage private companies is not really a new concept. Like I was early at Ramp and Plaid and I sold some of my equity in the secondaries. There's players like EquityZen and Farage that facilitate secondary market transactions. Not that they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, but it's, a concept that it's an asset class that has been around a while. And the downside is the buy-in price is already so high. But the exciting thing about RV2 and being able to invest in early stage companies is that there's such a greater upside potential. So can you talk a little bit more about the decision?
Yes, of
RV2.
course, of course. So first of all, to come back to what you just said about RVI, I think there's so much truth to that, right? We at Robinhood and I in particular believe that when you let people experiment, when you let people learn by doing, it's actually really powerful. And it's that's what we stand for, right? We treat our investors and our customers as adults, and we think they're very smart in the way that they manage their money. And being able to just invest $100 and learn, it's just, I think it's really powerful. You don't have to freeze thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to potentially garner the returns. And then there's a couple other things the SEC mandates to protect retail, including diversification. These funds are very diversified. No single company can ever be more than 20% of the portfolio. And then disclosures, right? We have to reveal everything that's in the portfolio. We have to perform quarterly valuations, and we have to disclose those to our investors. And so it is very regulated from that perspective. But to get to the meat of your question, which is RV2, I'm incredibly excited about this because I think, to your point, it's even more innovative than RV1. There really isn't today any way for the 99%, the American citizens, to access early stage innovation in this country, which is so vibrant, particularly in this moment in time with AI, where everything is open and new category leading companies are probably going to get founded now in the last couple of years and in the next 5 years. And so I believe it's an incredibly exciting time to have exposure to early stage investing. But that being said, how do you do that? How do you deliver excellent, accessible portfolios to everyone? It's really not obvious. And so the way we decided to do it, one is to work within the same universe of closed-end funds and 40 Act funds that are exchange traded. We think that is the best experience for retail investors because they are, again, no minimum, accredited is possible. Anyone can invest if you're an American taxpayer, and exchange traded. So it has liquidity. So that felt like the right vehicle. And then in terms of the strategy, we thought, look, let's pick a strategy that we think is proven, excellent, and where we can win. And so when we got around a table and thought, what is the best, most proven universe for high quality early stage companies, Y Combinator came up as, our dream ecosystem that we would invest out of if we could. And so we just candidly went to them and we told them, would you be supportive if we decided to do this? They're not involved. They're not a sub-advisor. They're not an official partner, but they were very excited about this concept of this existing and more capital going to their companies, and then this retail capital having access to this amazing source of wealth creation that is YC. And so they were very excited to help us and to guide us to get this done. And one of the ways in which they helped us is give us a list of people we should hire who could be amazing portfolio managers for us to do this. And we were fortunate enough to be able to convince Rich Aberman to join us as the portfolio manager for this fund. Rich is amazing. He is a YC founder himself. He sold his company for $400 million to JP Morgan. I kind of tease him because he was a really big exit for his company was a really big exit for YC at the time, but it's a payments company and he was in the same batch as Stripe. And so it's the tech world's always humbling, and so nevertheless, he had a very successful exit. He became a visiting partner at YC and then invested himself as part of YC. So he's very much an insider. He's an amazing guy and very respected member of the YC community. And he was incredibly excited to build this product for the benefit of retail investors, which is it's really innovative. It's really differentiated. What it is we're as we speak right now, we're in the middle of our IPO roadshow, but this will likely come out after. We're targeting $200 million for this fund. It will invest in YC batches. Probably right now our strategy is the top 20% of every batch. So think every batch is about 200 companies. This will invest in about 40 companies every season, so 4 times a year. So about half the portfolio will be deployed in these early seed stage checks. And then we want to reserve about half for opportunistic seed rounds for companies where we think we have a unique access or a unique angle, and then follow-ons, obviously, in the winners.
Great. Yeah. And Rich seems like the perfect person, coming out of that 2008 YC badge and selling We Pay to JP Morgan is like a huge accomplishment. So it's great to see that you've got him. And I don't know if you're like doing this from a marketing perspective for the roadshow, but if not, like I would recommend it. When I was a VC investing in early stage companies at Fin Capital, getting into the top YC companies was really hard. Like if you were lucky enough to have formed a relationship with a founder before they'd gone into YC, then maybe you increase your chances of getting on their cap table. But if you were just a VC going through the list of the cohort and reaching out cold to these founders, it was really competitive in order to get on their cap table because they've got their choice of any top VC. And so the fact that Robinhood Ventures is allowing the public to get into the top part of the cohort is really, really like hard to come by, even if you have a seat in venture. So I think like it's pretty incredible what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. I think that's very important to underline is we're not just building indices here of early stage or an index of growth stage. We're playing to win. We want to be top decile, right? We want to bring retail what is best. Oftentimes, retail gets the scraps, or they get things that look great but maybe have really high fees, or portfolios that are indices but maybe not top decile. And so we definitely don't want to do that. We play to win. We want to deliver an amazing portfolio for our retail investors. And the nice thing is for this fund, we also will put in place performance fees. And so our incentives as a team and as Robinhood is very aligned with our investors. Is if they make money, we make money. And so that's very much the intent, is to fight. And you know it, right? Is like every round that is hot is a fight. And obviously we want to be friendly. We want to be the investor that everyone wants to collaborate with. We don't want to we want to play a positive sum game. We don't want to elbow out anyone of anything or lead rounds or anything like that. But certainly we want to fight for our allocation. And I think it's even cooler when you fight for the little guy, which is what gives us a lot of energy.
Very true to Robinhood's mission of like democratization and the fact that you're allowing these retail investors to have access to huge potential wealth gains. Like if we look at Uber, it was valued at 5 million in the seed round, and now it's valued at over 135 billion. So being able to give retail investors a chance to get a piece of that pie is amazing. Of course, it's rare. So like not every company is going to reach that status. And I see that you do some work with Aileen Lee from Allraise, and who was actually the person that coined that term unicorn. I absolutely love her. I think she's incredible. She came up the ranks at Kleiner Perkins when venture was even more male dominated than it is today. So I wanted to get your thoughts on whether RV2 is like allowing access to women to start to educate themselves about the profession. Like, can you expand a little bit about that?
That's a great point. And by the way, I love that it's two women having a conversation about tech and fintech. I think there should be more of those. Kudos to Aileen. She's amazing. I think this generation of women in venture and in technology is absolutely incredible. And not only are there amazing investors, amazing entrepreneurs who are women in our generation, but I think there's a real solidarity and desire to pull each other up and push each other up and shine a light on our collective successes. And I'm incredibly proud to be part of this generation of investors in tech. I think it's incredibly energizing, and I think we are we are paving a new path and changing the way that this industry looks. And it's an incredible source of pride for me. Unfortunately, at Robinhood, our population is still very male dominated. And it's really something that I'm hoping I can change by embodying the fact that, you can be head of Robinhood Ventures and you can be a portfolio manager of a large publicly traded fund and be a woman, be an immigrant, be a mother. All those things are compatible. And I want to tell women to try it out. Investing is scary and you can lose money, of course, but if you don't participate, we want to be amazing in terms of our ability to be successful in our professional career, but also with our ability to participate in wealth creation, right? There was a study I remember when I started in venture that Carta did. Or when I started at Emerson, around the fact that even though women were having better and better titles and roles in companies, their ownership in the final cap tables of tech companies was still really low. I think it was under 10%. And so that has to change, right? We have to create wealth for ourselves. And once we create that liquidity, we have to invest it, not, leave it dormant in safe investments. And so that if that is something I can help change by allowing women to try it out, even if it's with small amounts, to try your hand out at buying and holding and letting the compounding returns do their thing, I think it would be amazing.
Okay, I agree. I have a community of 19,000 women in fintech. It's something I started 10 years ago when I moved to New York and I didn't know anyone in this country. And I thought, why not start a group where women can support women and male allies? We very much think that it takes everyone in order to make real change. So I would love to promote RV2 to my 19,000 members. Can we talk a little bit about how it works? And I know this podcast will go live after the IPO, but just talking through the process of what's happening right now with the roadshow.
Yeah, of course. So because these are publicly traded funds, we're raising them in what looks very much like a traditional company IPO, a primary IPO. So we kicked it off on Monday, August 3rd, and it's going to run over about 10 days. And we opened up the order book for retail on Robinhood. So anyone can open a Robinhood account, or if you already have a Robinhood account, you can place an order, and then when the stock starts trading, you will get your shares, and there off you go. And if you're an institutional, or if you're already a private banking client with the companies that run our IPOs, so we have Goldman Sachs, and we have Wells Fargo, and we have UBS, and we have Citi, you can do it through your financial advisor as well. And then we also work with Trade PMR, which is our RIA network that is part of Robinhood now. We're incredibly proud to have them participate as well. So there's multiple ways to participate in the IPO. The most direct, if you're just a self-directed investor, is to do it through Robinhood, which is great. And then if this podcast comes out after RV2 has started trading, then really you can buy it in the open market like any stock or any ETF. It is going to trade under the ticker RV2, and you can just place an order. And obviously, I can't give investment advice, but certainly I think with investing, sometimes it's better to just buy it and forget it, and take a look from time to time and rebalance your portfolio. But with early stage investing, as you know, these are things that take time to appreciate and for the returns to happen. But we're very excited about the potential.
And I love the fact that you can have the Robinhood app, search RV2, get the details on the companies in the portfolio. So you can see who the founders are and what the companies do, which is excellent training for anyone that is thinking about a career in venture capital. So I would highly recommend that everyone downloads and invests, this very low minimum amount. So I think it's a no-brainer. So we actually are nearly at time. So is there anything about RV2 that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet before we end on the fun question?
I would say it's really been amazing to see the caliber of young entrepreneurs, young and less young, although the median age is 26. So it's making me feel very young to talk to all of these YC founders that I'm seeing right now. Y Combinator, it's people who are dropping out of the best universities in the country. They got into the CS program and they won multiple Olympiads, either here or in their country. And then they decide to drop out after a year or two to do this. This is really, I think there's this AI moment in time is creating is really, I think, opening up the barrier to entrepreneurship. And frankly, if this is something that Robinhood Ventures too can achieve, I think it would be amazing, is not only creating more investors that have exposure to early stage venture, but maybe more entrepreneurs. If maybe people who listen to this, or maybe even women who listen to this, see themselves as potential YC founders or potential seed stage founders, now is potentially the time. And, let's democratize access to that too. And I think with artificial intelligence, it is easier than ever to start a company. And so it should be all of us. And I'm incredibly impressed with the people I see and the ambition of their ideas. It's not just software as a service anymore. It's all kinds of things. It's bio, it's deep tech, it's space. It's really exciting.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, great point. Like, we don't only need people to learn how to become investors, but maybe this will inspire another wave of entrepreneurship. So that's very exciting. Okay, so to end on the question that I ask all my guests, I feel really privileged that I get to interview these incredible people like you, Sarah. And so I love hearing what you're consuming and what your favorite books are, so that myself and the listeners can potentially also learn from those books. So if you can please tell us 2 books that you absolutely loved, one personal, and it can be fiction or nonfiction, and one professional.
Yes, I will cite 2 women authors. One is a woman who's French-Moroccan, whose name is Leila Slimani. She just came out with a book, or it came out last year in French, but it just got translated in English, called I'll Take the Fire, which I highly recommend. It's an amazing story of immigration and a saga about a Moroccan family. And the title comes from this amazing quote, which I think summarizes the immigrant experience, which is, what would you take if your house was burning? I would take the fire. And so I really like that quote. I think it's pretty amazing. And then the second one is Scaling People by Claire Hughes Johnson. I think she's amazing. She's been an incredible inspiration to me, having been fortunate enough to invest in Stripe when she was still there, and then having met her and having spent some time with her. She's just extraordinary. I think she's a little bit under the radar as well. She's not a great self-promoter, but her book is incredible. It's not really a book that you read cover to cover, but it's one that I always come back to when I have questions about management and people, and it's all about the people in this industry and in this world, and so highly recommend that book as well.
Excellent recommendations. I can't wait to read both. So thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for being on the podcast today and for all the exciting work that you're doing at Robinhood Ventures.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Okay, so that's all we have time for. Thank you to the listeners. Please subscribe, leave a review, share the podcast with someone that might find it valuable, and we'll be back with another episode next month.